Hello. I'm gonna tell a story, retell a story, and I'll tell you why I'm retelling it. When I did that poison ivy follow-up video a few days ago, I drove down past where I used to live, and I retold the story of the Indian woman in the tree. But really, there's more to that than that. I'd say the spirit hawk was part of that, definitely, and the other sightings before that. So I've been meaning to tell that story again, on its own right, by itself, because, you know, to this day, it's one of the flippiest things I've ever encountered, and I've encountered a lot of pretty unusual things. And I think this is going to be one of those stories that's going to require a little leap of faith in your part, whether you believe it or not. That's up to you. It's all right either way. I don't blame you if you don't. But I'm not making any money off this channel, so why would I be doing this? You know, yeah, who knows? But I'm telling you, you're just going to have to take my word for it. I'm not embellishing, making anything up or embellishing a thing with this story. And it's just an unusual spirit story, really. And I think it's all tied together. So I'll go into it. And it has to do with where I used to live before I moved to where I'm at presently. I just made these candles. They're struggling. Oh well. It'll go. There it goes. Yeah, that place is about 5 miles from where I'm sitting right now. Outside of the village, a little ways. And I lived there for, trying to get things right. I can see, I got like a camera's image, so I'm looking at the camera's image. I like try to get things, whatever, symmetrical, whatever you want to call it. Let me get back on. I'm sorry. I was living there. This story took place about 7 years ago. And I'll call it the Indian woman and the spirit hawk. Ghostly into a spirit, definitely of some sort. And same with the hawk. And the hawk's appearance was even less unusual than the hawk's behavior towards me. So, how am I going to start this one? Not sure where to begin it. On this hillside, I'm going to show a little video clip of this area coming up. On this hillside, myself and Amy, an old friend of mine, have encountered a spirit on that hillside several times before this event happened. And each time we encountered it, we would be driving, down the hill or up the hill, not going very fast, like about 30-mile-an-hour area. It's very rural, in fact, and but nobody goes fast on that up there in that area. And the first time we saw it, we were coming down the hill, and there was a white figure, like a humanoid, human-shaped white figure standing in the middle of the road, and we both saw it, and the car drove right through it. I wasn't going very fast, and we drove right through it. And we both saw that, and then it wasn't but maybe a week or two later, somewhere, I don't remember the exact time, but we saw in the same place on that hillside, the same thing, a white figure, kind of like, I don't know what you call it, like Casper, just like a white, cloudy human figure, standing on the side of the road. This time it wasn't in the middle of the road, but it was on the side of the road, just standing there. And we drove by it, and Seems like we saw it a third time, also in the middle of the road again. Same thing, on the same area, which happens to be where the story I'm going to get to took place. Now, on my own, like a couple of years later, shortly before this happened with the woman in the tree, I was coming up the hill on a summer day, not going very fast. I'm talking like 30 miles an hour-ish, if that even, because I lived right up on the top of the hill. It wasn't far away. And I saw a white humanoid figure, of arms and legs, had human-like figure, white, cross from the woods, and I'm going up the hill, so it came this way, and I could see it just cross right in front of my car and went down into the woods. Saw it clear as day, and arms swinging, and just walked right across the road, right in front of the car, and just kept going to the others. And I remember calling my mom and telling her I was pretty excited about it. So, this had been sighted in the same place 4 times that I can recall. 3 times with my friend Amy saw it as well. Once I saw it, what I just described, walk across the road quite clearly. And I mean, it was walking pretty fast, by the way. But it was just, I could make out the figure, the arms and the legs. You know, it was just like the other times, like a white, cloudy person. So, put all that aside for a minute, and I'm getting into Luciano Pavarotti. And I went through quite a phase where I really loved listening to opera, and that was, I still love it. And I liked it so much, and we lived out in the sticks. The trailer we lived in is no longer there. There's a new building, and there's a new trailer, and people live there. The one I was in was it was just torn down. It was so old. The property sold, and the new owners just tore that trailer out of there, scrapped it. It was garbage, like 1970s single wide. I could write a book about the hauntings that I encountered living there for 8 years. Mostly by myself, but not. 4 of those were with Jen, and she encountered quite a lot of stuff there, as did some other people that were there with me. But I've never heard anything from anybody living there before, and actually talked about one of them, and they never encountered anything. So, yeah, it's another story. I'm into Luciano Pavarotti, and particularly one of my songs that I liked a lot by Pavarotti was Una furtiva lagrima, which translates in Italian to one furtive tear. One furtive tear. Una furtiva lagrima. And we're living out in the sticks, like I was saying, so far back in there, remote, that I could play my music loud, nobody cared. I could sing at the top of my lungs, nobody would hear me, really. So I thought. Oh, that's good. I actually memorized this song in Italian, and I'd sing it for you here, but I'll spare you. Una partially spare you. Una furtiva lagrima, que non si... I'll tell you what I'll do. I'm going to play 2 minutes of that song here for you, because if I don't play it at least 2 minutes, I'm going to feel bad, because I really love this song still. But this song plays into what's going to happen next in my story. So here's 2 minutes of Luciano Pavarotti singing Una furtiva lagrima. And I'll put a link to this song in the description.
Una
So, pretty good piece, right? Very spirited. And the great Luciano Pavarotti. Pavarotti. Oh, I'm thinking like, yeah, Pavarotti. But I've listened to Caruso sing it. Enrico Caruso, who came way before, like 1920s, I think. And he sings this song very well, too. It's kind of hard to say who I like more, but I kind of lean towards Pavarotti. So, the great Caruso, the great Pavarotti. The debate still goes on who sang that song better. Pavarotti gets my vote barely. So I'm singing this song one summer day. Here's where this happens. And I'm going to tell you what, I took a clip out of the video I made 3 days ago. And I'm going to try something because I'm with this video editing software. You got to excuse me if I throw special effects and stuff. I'm kind of having fun with it, making videos with this software. I like it quite a bit on a tablet that I got. And I'm going to put a clip of what I saw. I mean, just driving. I didn't get this ghost. But I'll put a clip of this, what I saw when I encountered this woman in the tree. So here, I'm going to start it up and I'll probably slow it down, the speed on the clip, because I'm going to talk through it. All right? So bear with me. We'll see how this turns out. All right, I've slowed this down a bit. So I used to live in the lot, or the place to the left here, but that has long since been torn down. All the structures that are there now weren't there when I lived there. Whole different group of people there and family. Any rate, so I'm driving down this way. Not going much faster. I was driving pretty slow. I'm singing Una furtiva lagrima right at this point. Driving down, there are no leaves on the trees. It was no snow on the ground. It was fall, autumn. And the trees were bare, and so was the ground was bare. And I'm driving down this way. The day was just as bright as it is in this, singing Una furtiva lagrima. I was headed to my mom's, who lived about 5 miles that way in the village, as I recall. And incidentally, later in the story, when the spirit hawk followed me up the hill, I pulled over to take its picture. It was right about here where it stopped. Now, it was at this point where I saw what looked like a giant white sheet up in the tree, right about where my index finger's touching. That tree, to be precise. There were no leaves on the tree again. It was probably probably November. And I slowed down wondering what that was. Wondering what it was in the tree. Because it really stood out. I thought it was somebody's bed sheet. It was really big white in the very top of that tree in the branches. And here's an AI image of something similar that I took a while, but I got this AI image to give you an idea. I mean, I thought it was a sheet. And then I thought it was too big to be a sheet, so I thought maybe a painter's tarp. Yeah, I kind of really slowed down about 10 miles an hour at this point. And I didn't know what it was, just a large white mass in the top of the tree. I couldn't make out corners or anything like this AI image. I couldn't figure. I was trying to figure out what it was. I thought somebody's bed sheet got blown up into that tree, or their painter's tarp. But there wasn't any windstorms, and the whole thing didn't make any sense. I didn't think ghost or anything. I didn't know what it was. I thought somebody's painter's tarp, which is white but bigger than a bed sheet. I figured somehow that was hung up in that tree. I couldn't figure it out. So I was watching it as I'm driving up real slow. And I'm trying to figure out what it is. And as I approach it, it starts right about here, descending from that tree. Started descending down to the road from the top of that tree. and it wasn't tumbling like something that would be blowing in the wind. There was no wind out to speak of that day. It came down like something on an escalator, like in a straight line straight down to the road. And I slowed down as I got up to where it was coming down, still not sure what the heck it was. Still thinking somehow that it was a sheet or a tarp. The whole thing was strange at this point. About to get a lot stranger. Right here at this point, I stopped the car because this thing came right up to the road. It stopped in the road, it descended down, and it was right up by my driver's window. And now I was seeing what it was, and it was pretty wild. It was a woman in a white dress, and I don't know if you could call it a dress, just a huge mass. It looked like torn shreds of white cloth that were floating. Everything was in motion. Her, whatever it was you want to call it, a dress, it was like torn shreds of white cloth. They didn't look dirty or anything, but it was like shreds or strips of white cloth, but a lot of it all around her like a dress, and it was floating. It was floating like as if she was floating on her back in the water, kind of little bit of gentle undulating motion. And this was a woman, and I'll describe, she had a lot of black, really thick, a lot of black hair, a lot, really thick head of hair, but it was also like her cloth splayed out all around her head, like floating, as if she were on her back floating in the water, and her hair was floating around her. And I mean, it was above, it was all around, just as if she were floating on her back in the water, and she had a lot of hair that was floating on the water all around her head. It was gently moving, undulating, floating just like whatever you could call a garment. And now if you can picture that, what I just described. Now her face wasn't exactly frightening. It was different. Her complexion was coppery, like really tan, but a coppery tone of tan, if that makes any sense. And it made me think of an Indian woman. And her eyes were wide open. Really, that stood out. She was really wide-eyed, like I probably was too, staring back at her. She was only about 2 feet away from me. She was only about 2 feet away from me at this point. And she didn't have any expression on her face to speak of. Her mouth wasn't smiling or frowning. Her lips were closed. She had her just was staring at me, wide-eyed, real wide-eyed. And her dress, if you could call that, went down. This is going to sound weird, but I could see her cleavage, and if I were to put an age on her, I would say she was in her 20s. Aside from being freaky and ghost-like, she looked pretty healthy. And I was shocked. I stared at her like that, stopped there, I don't know how long, 10, 15 seconds, just shocked, really mentally numb. And then I suddenly, after 15 seconds, I just floored it and got out of there real quick. And just as soon as I left, I heard a thump on the back of my car distinctly, as if somebody punched or kicked my car. I think I upset her, personally. I got the impression that I upset her by speeding off like that. But she wasn't frightening to look at, but it was really so unusual. I was really startled. And I snapped out of it, and I stepped on the gas and took off. And I started headed down the hill. I was afraid. I was praying at this point, praying like crazy, praying to God to protect me, to shine His holy light around me, praying to Jesus Christ to protect me. I was afraid that maybe she was still in the car, that she was following me, because I heard a thump. It really sounded like somebody punched or kicked the car as soon as I sped off. So I drove down here praying. And I got to say, that I was really quite, I don't know, my heart was probably racing at this point. That was very unusual. And I got up to this stop sign up here, and I called my friend Amy, because Amy believed in these things and she was a Christian and she saw a spirit there 3 times with me. So I told her about it. As soon as I stopped the car, I didn't have the presence of mind to grab my phone and take her picture. Didn't even think of it. I was just mentally numb, shocked, really shocked. Yeah, so I got up to this stop sign, stopped, and called Amy and told her about what I'd seen. I told Amy that I'd seen the woman, that we saw the figure there on the hillside, and she said she was praying for me, that God's holy light would shine all around me. She definitely believed me, of course. I want to say that I forgot to say in this video, I didn't get a vibe. I didn't get a scary vibe or an evil vibe from this woman spirit at all. It was just quite freaky, mind-blowing. But I didn't get any vibe, anything evil or anything like that, or anything good for that matter. It was just some apparition that came up to my car window and was staring in at me wide-eyed. There really wasn't any expression on her face, just wide-eyed. Her mouth was closed, lips were closed. She didn't look ghastly, aside from her visage of her hair splayed out and her whatever that garment she had on splayed out all around her, moving. But that's on this. Get back to my candles in the dining room talk on this event. All right, I got to tell you, when I stopped there and I called up Amy, I was very excited and shook up. And my first concern was that this woman had followed me. Maybe she was even sitting in the back seat for all I knew. So I did a lot of praying, and Amy prayed for me. And I called my mom and told her about it. And she prayed for me. So God does come into this. Now, this was definitely one of the more unusual things I've ever encountered, but there are some that come close, maybe even tie it. But I wanted to tell this one again, because what happened next in this story ties into it, and I think I can tie it all together, whether you make of it what you will. I did not go, I was afraid to drive up that hill again. There were 2 ways to get to my place, and going up the hill was the quickest way to get there from the village where I live now. But you could go around. It was about a mile out of my way or more. And so I was going around. I was avoiding that hill for a week or 2. But the very next time I drove up that hill, maybe 2 weeks later, after I saw the woman come out of the tree, I drove up the hill. It was broad daylight. Again, there was no snow on the ground, no leaves on the trees. And I recall. And I'm going up the hill now. So the woman came out on the side of the hill. She was on this side of the road driving up the hill. So driving up the hill, the same place where the woman was that came out of the tree, but on the other side of the road, there was a white hawk. A pure white hawk. And I mean, it really got my attention. It was perched on a limb close to the side of the road. And pure white hawk, pure white. I mean, I slowed down and looked at it because it really stood out. And there are no white hawks, there are no white birds at all around here. None. Unless somebody's cockatoo got loose, or cockatiel, whatever. No. There was a white hawk, and it was indeed a hawk. And I've Googled it. I've done an extensive search. There are no white hawks in North America. None. So it really, for the most part, just exists in folklore and Indian mythology. You can Google it yourself, White Hawk, Indian mythology. And it wasn't frightening. I thought it was beautiful. Go away, Google. Google turned on. Sometimes that's a pain. So I slowed down, and this time I did have a presence of mind to take a picture of it. But before I could stop the car and take a picture, it left its perch. And I'm still going up the road, maybe 15 miles an hour. Get this. This is going to be a stretch for you to believe, but I swear I'm telling you exactly what happened. It glided up to the car, and I'm going up the hill real slow, 10, 15 miles an hour tops, real slow. And it came right up next to my car window, a white hawk. I'm not making this up. It was beautiful. It was actually a very beautiful experience, a spiritual experience of some sort. I'm afraid it's nothing I can relate to in the Bible, but I'm telling you what happened. And its wingtip, I mean, it wasn't flapping, it was just, soaring. Like, it wasn't even flapping its wings, it was just gliding. And its wingtip was almost touching my window. I could have rolled my window down and reached out and put my arm on this thing, my hand on it, on its back, all the way up the hill. If I would have rolled my window down, that's how close it was to my window on my side of the car. It was right next to the driver's side window, and it followed me all the way up the hill. It never left, and it was outstanding. I wanted to take a picture of it, for sure. And it followed me all the way up, looking at me, and I was amazed. And I pulled over to get a picture. Then it went into a tree and landed in a tree and was looking at me. And I got my phone. By the time I could get it loaded up, ready to take a picture, the camera turned on. I went to take a picture, and it flew off, disappeared into the sky. And that's that. There are no white hawks in New York State or North America. Google it, check it out. I think there's something up towards the Arctic. Nothing around here. I don't think there's any white hawks. If they are, they're not around here. And I've never seen one. But its behavior, and it happened right where that woman came out of the tree, and where we'd seen a spirit, white spirit, and a woman was dressed in white. And the three or four times we saw a spirit there before, but not like I did when it came out of the tree. It was white, and this hawk was completely white. And it was a hawk. I know what hawks look like, and it was definitely a hawk, not a dove or anything. Definitely a hawk, possibly an eagle, but that kind of a bird, and that's the story. Now, this is what I think it is, all right? You can disagree with me, and you can say this isn't Christian, and I suppose it isn't. But I'm just telling you what happened, and God allowed this to happen. And I did a lot of praying about this afterwards. But I'm just telling you what happened. Make of it what you will. I think that the figure that Amy and I saw, and I saw on my own once there, and the woman that came out of the tree, I think that was the same entity, probably, maybe not. No way of knowing. I think that this entity wanted to meet me. And when I freaked out, we stared at each other for, I don't know how long it was, 10 seconds? I was just shocked. And when I floored it, and it sounded like she punched the car or kicked it, I think I offended it. But I think it had wanted to meet me, possibly. Or maybe an Indian woman's buried there. I don't know. But I think the white hawk might have been her seeing me one more time and then leaving. Because I never encountered anything on that hillside ever again. And one time I walked home from the village, 5 miles, pitch black dark. And I mean, it was 5 miles home and almost all uphill, as it would be. I live in a valley. And, I walked up that hill, pitch black. It was so dark, I had to use my phone to see where I was on the road. That's how black it was that night. You'd think I would be afraid I would run into something, but I didn't encounter anything. Even walking up there at night, I stood out there once before. A couple of times stood out there taking pictures, honestly. And I never saw anything there again after that. After the White Hawk followed me up the hill, all the way up the hill. I am not exaggerating. The whole time up that side of that hill, it was right there, right next to my car, with its wing so close, if I rolled my window down, I could have put my hand on it. And there's something to that. There's something to this story. I don't know what it is, but I didn't feel threatened by anything there. I didn't get a bad vibe. I was shocked. I wasn't afraid of the Indian woman, but I was definitely really stunned, shocked. And the encounter with the hawk was beautiful. The encounter with the white, misty, human-shaped encounters, they were just odd. Ghost. Seen a lot of that stuff there, all over that area. A lot of it, a lot. It was just more of that, but I think it was all the same. And I'll pray to God for wisdom on this, I think. And maybe at some point, maybe when I cross over, that's when I'll find out what all that was about. I didn't get a bad vibe from it. I didn't get like it was something evil. I didn't get that at all. Not at all. I mean, it was just unusual. All right, I wanted to share that story because sometimes it takes time to put things together, but I put things together. All the pieces fell into place, and I think that it was a spirit that wanted to meet me for whatever reason. And I think the White Hawk was the same spirit seeing me one more time before departing this realm, or whatever it does. Because that was it with the White Hawk. I never encountered it there again. But I felt kind of honored. I mean, I don't know how that sounds. I love God, Jesus Christ, the Father, Son, the Holy Spirit. But I felt kind of honored that this Native American spirit had gone to lengths to meet me and manifest as a white hawk, possibly. And I imagine some of you might be put off at this, but it happened, as I've just told you, and I can't deny it. I'm not going to deny it. So there's nothing else I can say. I can't add anything more to it. So, all right, take care, and we'll see what the future holds. I have no idea. It's just not really much going on in my life right now. Of any, just kind of nothing. I guess that's not a bad thing. Shoulder's getting bad. Arthritis really bad from a job accident. And I'm hoping to stave off surgery for that. So it's just getting older, aches and pains. We all have them. I'm no different, for sure. I've been lucky. All right, let me know what you think. And if you have any questions, I don't know what else I could share with you on this. I pretty much told the whole thing. I wish I could. I can't really. I almost wish I'd gotten a photograph of her, but I didn't even think to. I was so stunned. Didn't even think of it till later. All right, take care. Good night. Good day, whatever. Thank you for your time. It just occurred to me. Perhaps she appeared to me in the form of the white hawk and came up to the window like she did out of the tree. But it startled me, so she appeared to me in this form. and came up to me. And I don't know why I didn't put all that together to just right now, but it seems pretty obvious that she wanted to come up to me, but not scare me like she did the first time. Wow. Sometimes it takes years to put together things that should be obvious, you know? Okay, there was another thing that came to mind, and I'll relay that here. All right, a bit of information that's pertinent to this story comes to mind that I forgot to mention. I had a friend, or have a friend, named Casey Ellerson, actually. He told me that his grandfather told him that the Indians used to bury their dead on that hillside and up where I lived, that whole area up there, but on the hillside area. And that his grandfather told him the Indians buried their dead there and that they were friendly spirits. And he said, this is what he told me, that if you didn't get a deer, his grandfather said, during deer season, go up there and hunt on that hillside, and the Indians would make sure you got a deer every time, guaranteed. This is what he told me, all right? And then, it was only then I told him the story that I just relayed in this about the Indian woman in the tree and the spirit hawk. And he believed it completely, and he thought it was pretty cool. In fact, he told a few people about what I saw and related to what his grandfather said to him about the Indians who had buried their dead there on that hill. And the Indians they left the area around about 1800, 1805. So it's quite feasible that his grandfather might have known somebody who knew somebody who knew somebody that knew these things. All right, that's the end of the story. And the hawk here is AI art. The white hawk. It's pretty close to what I saw. Okay, take care. God bless.